Hello and welcome back to Raise the Trident. My name is Jake, and today, this is a video that had to be made, a podcast that had to be made because, as you already know, at this point, the Seattle Mariners 2025 season has came to a close, and that close was at the hand of the Toronto Blue Jays, who end up winning Game 7 by a score of 4-3. And yeah, it's just very, very complicated time to be a Mariners fan right now. A lot of different emotions that seem to kind of contradict each other a little bit. But, I think we're here today on this podcast. This is going to be very much a, maybe therapeutic, kind of putting a bow on the season, really trying to kind of get the emotions out the best way we can type thing. And so today we have Jay's Trident of Jay's Trident podcast on the channel. It's been a little while since he's been on the channel, but I feel like Jay is one of the more even-keeled people just in the community in general, and I think can be very thoughtful and very reasonable with this take. It's not saying anyone is like unreasonable per se, but Jay is, I feel like, especially very good about articulating kind of the complicated emotions that come with these types of things. So first of all, Jay, how are you doing tonight?
Doing okay. Hurting after yesterday, and I appreciate you having me on. And as always, thank you for the kind words, my friend. Great job on the stream last night. And before I go any further, I do want to shout you out, even though this is your community. Again, nobody I think has brought this community more together than you have. So I really do appreciate that. I've met a lot of people through you this season. We'll get into all the sappy stuff, but
Yeah.
Personally, I'm doing great. But emotionally, from a baseball perspective, it hurts. I've already been through all the stages of grief already, and I think I'm recycling back through them a little bit here again on day one.
Yeah, like I said, it is a complicated time to be a Mariners fan because this team in 2025 has had a lot of different iterations of the team throughout the year. We've said it multiple times on some of the live streams for the postseason games that, like, can you believe that this team rostered Donovan Solano and Rowdy Tellez and Dylan Moore at the start of the year, and look at it, what it's, the makeup of what it is right now, or at least as of yesterday. Of course, there will be a difference in the roster come 2026 opening day. But along with that, there's been a lot of not great moments like most teams go through, and some of the lows felt incredibly low. But a lot of really good moments, and I would argue multiple franchise defining moments, like best moment in franchise history type things, occurred this year, both on an individual and macro level. However, and we will get to those things, but here's the deal. Okay. And I know that people who are listening to this, the 4-3 loss in Game 7 is going to be very raw, right, still, and people are still rightfully going to be very upset about what occurred, and I do not blame you. Obviously, I'm not happy about what happened. I'm pretty disappointed. And it's totally fine to feel that way. So we are going to talk about Game 7, and then we'll get to kind of putting more of a macro look at the season, which ultimately is more of a positive outlook later. So first of all, Game 7 was maybe the most gut-wrenching game I've ever watched. Game 5 was very close, especially those extra innings. I remember distinctly watching Game 5 of the ALDS against the Tigers, and I think it was like the 12th inning. I'm sitting on a couch watching the TV, and I can feel my body vibrating from all of the anxiety I was feeling at the time. There was a tangible vibration in my body, a very fine one. And obviously, that ended very well with Jorge Polanco's walk-off. This was a bit of a different anxiety. It lasted throughout the whole day, is how I felt it. But then it was also just kind of the uncomfortableness that even with any lead, it felt like, is this team going to screw it up? And, that's how I felt. So when you were watching Game 7, Jay, I'm curious, what were your kind of like your thoughts and emotions before and during the game?
Yeah, but before I was oddly calm because I think with the game 7 or game 5, there's a sense of, listen, either we move on today or it's over. You don't have to stress about another game. Well, I guess if you win, you got to stress about other games, but there's a finality to it. Whereas game 6, it's like, okay, if we lose, this is going to hurt, but you do still have to pick yourself back up and get ready for game 7 tomorrow. Now, of course, as first pitch rolls around, I'm nervous. I was during the playoffs, I kind of just sat there and watched, kind of the same way you did. I mean, just in this nervous, like almost trembling type sense during the games. Even when Cal homered, I just kind of went like, okay, my wife and my mom were watching and they were both cheering and they were like, why are you just sitting? I'm like, just get me outs. Just 22 outs, 19 outs, 17 outs. And kind of the same way as you. I mean, listen, game 7 ALCS, they could have been up 19-0. I probably wouldn't have felt comfortable until the last out of the game. I mean, in game 2, I was stressing when Hancock walked somebody up 10-3 with an out in the 9th inning. So nothing would have made me feel comfortable, but I did feel good. I felt like we were getting into the good part of our bullpen there, where we could hold them off and find a way to win that game. So, but I was with you. I never really felt like, oh my gosh, it's happened, but it's hard not to also think about it. Watching the game, you're only human if you're a Mariners fan. You're sitting there going, it's the bottom of the 7th. We're up by 2. Like, win probability was probably at like 85 to 90% for the Mariners. So it's hard not to be like, oh my gosh, this might happen. That's just human nature. But yeah, very calm before the game, nervous during, but that's postseason baseball. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, one, you can watch how I was during game 7. I have a watch party VOD, which it evidently looks like Blue Jay fans have found because it skyrocketed from about 300 views to about 1.3K within just today. And to be fair, the reaction for George Springer's homer was very clippable. I literally audibly say, Edward Bizardo has been the MVP of the bullpen all season. Does he have it in him again? And not even 5 seconds later, I say he just gave up a nuke to George Springer. Couldn't be the worst timing ever. But hey, I have to live with that. And at the end of the day, like it sucks. That moment was a huge gut punch. The clip is hilarious, so I'll have to give you that. Whoever decided to go into the VOD and timestamp it, not a fan of your work, but also it was funny, so whatever. So
hey, you gotta laugh. Like I saw it too, and I was like, it was just perfect. Like it literally.
It couldn't have been.
Bizardo's been so good this year. Lockdown and that ball's gone. I mean, it was
literally. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, and hey. We make content not only to celebrate, but hey, we're going to get kind of the crap end of the stick sometimes when it comes to that stuff. It is what it is. But that does lead me into the point that one of the biggest contentions for last night was the choice to go to Edward Bizardo in the 7th inning. Brian Wu started the inning. He ended up, I believe, giving a walk to Barger and then a single to IKF or Jimenez. I don't remember who. So there was runners on first and second, 1 out. And Dan Wilson, instead of going to Andres Munoz, who granted was not even warming at the time, goes to Edward Bizardo to face George Springer. And hypothetically, if there's not a double play, at least Nathan Lucas. As the clip we just talked about the clip, within 2 pitches of Bizardo being in the game, he gives up a 3-run go-ahead bomb to George Springer, which I felt was very baseball's interesting how poetic it can be, because George Springer obviously was a big point of contention, if you will, throughout this whole series. A lot of people don't care for George Springer due to the Astros cheating scandal, which, I mean, is relevant, I will say, but at the same time, there was the whole thing of Brian Wu accidentally hitting George Springer in the knee, him going down, trying to stay in the game, coming out. This is at T-Mobile Park. A lot of people were there was cheering, there was booing. Hard to say who was who, what was for what, but people did make up their minds that, Mariner fans are just the worst of the worst, I guess. I don't know. But of course it's George Springer, right? And a lot of people are not happy with going to Edward Bizardo instead of Andres Munoz. I said it on stream, and I was saying it in live time. I don't mind this move by any means. I don't think you keep Brian Wu in there. He's clearly on the ropes. He has very clearly been my kid just turned on the light. No, I don't want the light on, sir. Um yeah, and now it's flickering. This is awesome.
It's
See, we're
perfect.
professionals here. We're
Right.
professionals here. Um so yeah, so I said it live on the live stream. I didn't mind going to Edward Bizardo. I didn't even think about Andres Munoz potentially coming in until I saw people on Twitter like complaining that that's not what occurred. So I will say that with that in mind, like, yes, you probably should have went to Andres Munoz. So I get it. And of course, bullpen decisions are always going to be with big caveat of you don't necessarily know if that would have went well, but that's ultimately not what matters here in this debate. So I in the at the time in live time, I was fine with going to Edward Bizardo. I thought it was time for Wu to come out, and Bizardo has been, as I said in the clip, and it was true. He has been kind of the unsung MVP of the bullpen the entire year. He's been a revelation, and he has been incredible. And he's been really good in the postseason, apart from what, like 1 or 2 innings against the Tigers. So unfortunately, it doesn't come up in that big moment. Jay, I'm curious, what was going through your mind when Edward Bizardo's coming in from the bullpen, and ultimately, even with hindsight, how do you feel about that move?
Yeah, so it was funny. I was going to make a video on it today. And so my answer will probably pretty long-winded. First of all, I do think it's fun, not funny, but like Springer getting hit and the fans going at each other. I always kind of laugh at that sometimes because you look at the players on the field, they're all dapping each other up, having a
Mm-hmm.
good time. Like they all love each other and we're all going at each other like, oh, you hate
Yeah,
Springer. No, you do. It's like Springer's probably super chill with like everybody on the Mariners personally and
maybe.
everything. I
Yeah,
was kind of, yeah, maybe, I don't know, but it's like, we always say those things as fans to each other. Then you go watch and they're all like high five and stuff. So I think sometimes we get more wrapped up, as all fans and players do sometimes. Um, I was one of the Munoz people. I said on my stream last night that I would have gone to Munoz in that spot. I thought it was the biggest at bat probably of the season. I want my best reliever in there. Now, I've also at times said on my podcast that I trust Bizardo more than anybody out of this bullpen at times. So there's so many different things you can do as a manager, right? Like I was going to equate it to, you see the commercials, the appetizers at Applebee's, there's 5,000 different combinations you can make. That's kind of being a manager. There is 1,000 things Dan could have done, right? Maybe he starts inning with Spire because you got Barger up, then you've got IKF, then you've got Jimenez who's left-handed. Maybe that's fair. Maybe you leave Wu in to face Springer because Wu made him look pretty silly in the previous at bat. Maybe you go to Munoz because it's the most critical spot. Maybe you go to Brash because Brash doesn't give up a lot of home runs. Maybe, I don't know if I said already, maybe you go to Munoz because he's your best reliever. The bottom line is like, and I probably, again, personally think Munoz should have been up there in the inning. It's tough. Like I said, he wasn't warming up. That situation kind of happened fast. There was the walk to Barger. IKF gets the hit up the middle. Then Jimenez bunts and boom, second and third one out. Things move very quickly. And I don't necessarily blame Dan for not getting Munoz up thinking, oh, I'm going to use him in the seventh. I guess my thought is I think they were willing to use him for 6 outs in the eighth or ninth, use him there in the seventh, use him for the eighth, maybe get out of that spot and the offense responds and gets a couple runs, and then you can go to somebody else in the ninth. With all that said, I still don't put this on Dan Wilson for losing the game. Like you said, Bizardo's been fantastic. He's gotten out of those situations all season for the Seattle Mariners. I was even texting a buddy of mine going, even if you got out of this 3-3, fine. New ball game, 0-0, go to the eighth, get a run, take the lead. The literal worst thing that could happen happened. Like, you can't as a manager go in this and go, oh, Bizardo could give up a home run. He doesn't give up a lot of home runs, more than Munoz does for sure. But that can't be your thought as a manager in that situation either. It's just something that doesn't happen a lot for Bizardo. And as good as Springer in, it's not like it's Aaron Judge at the plate either, where it's like someone that's 50-55 home runs. Springer's been fantastic this year, but it's not someone of that caliber either. It just literally the worst possible thing happened. Were there other decisions Dan could have made that I think were more optimal? Yes. And Bizarro would pitch 2 innings the day before. I think that makes it a little complicated. It stinks. Like, you can't do this, but if you knew how game 7 was going to play out, You almost wish they just would have punted game 6 and put Hancock in instead of Bizzardo and saved him. But you can't do that either. You're down 3 runs in game 6. Like you've got to still play. You can still come back and win that. And you're trying to get Wu through that 3rd inning. Another, menu option we didn't talk about. Maybe Kirby goes 1 more inning. He looked pretty good through 4. Maybe he goes 5, then Wu goes 6 or 7. Then you have Munoz 8 and 9. But, Kirby was bad in game 3 against this Tigers offense. So you kind of feel like maybe you're pushing it a little too much, trying to get 1 more inning out of him. It's a thankless job. If Bizzardo gets out of that, we're praising Dan. We're going, Dan the man, pushing the buttons again.
Now he's got Munoz. Yeah.
Yep. Now he's got Munoz for the 8th and 9th. The man, Bizzardo's been a dog all season. Look at our guy got out of this situation. It's just literally the worst thing possible happened. And it's not like Dan brought in Luke Jackson, was like, well, I was trying to bridge the gap a little bit. I thought Luke needed some work or something like that. He went to a great reliever and a good hitter beat him. I hate saying baseball, but it is a very poetic sport. It seems to create moments more than any other game there is. And for the Blue Jays, it just happened to create a fantastic moment for them and for their fan base, and for us, a little heartache. Not the move I would have made, but I'm also not the manager of this team. Dan knows them. There's also, I think, some things to be said too, where Munoz wasn't that great in the 8th inning. He was probably lucky to get out of that. Now, they were down by a run. He might have kind of, I don't want to say checked out, because I don't think he checked out, but that's got to be a tough spot, thinking he's going to pitch for the lead to go to the World Series and he's coming in down a run. Munoz can get wild at times too. Bizzardo's probably been a better strike thrower, I think, than Munoz. Someone could probably come in the comments and go, no, their walk rate at Munoz is better. But just to me, I feel like Bizzardo's command control has been a little bit better. Munoz maybe not comfortable coming in with guys on base. Game 7 of the ALCS, doesn't really matter, but there's a whole lot of little things that go into this. And I'm not just saying that to say that, like, oh, managers, just don't criticize them for anything. Like, there are legit criticisms. But John Schneider made mistakes in this series, right? Like Brandon Little, the Blue Jay fans were ripping him for that decision. And even that one, you look at it and go, Hoffman's got a bit of a home run problem. Little doesn't give up any home runs. And he just happened to give one up to the dumper. Blue Jay fans are going, oh, go with Sir Anthony Dominguez. Well, he serves up the grand slam to Gino. Schneider did some odd things too. He had Chris Bassett pitch the 8th yesterday. Imagine if the Mariners came back. That decision probably gets ripped apart. You went to Chris Bassett, who's only pitched 1 inning all postseason, to be the setup guy in the 8th inning of game 7. Sometimes the players have just got to execute it. Bizzardo's been great all season. Unfortunately, it was a pitch that was not good. Springer hit it out. And I hate saying that's baseball in game 7 of the ALCS, but it is. Again, probably not the move I would have made. I think fair to be critical of Dan, but I've seen way too much like he should be fired over this. I mean, the Mariners had their best season ever. Dan is not going anywhere.
Well, I do, to be fair, I do feel like the Dan Wilson should be fired thing is not only about the Bizzardo thing. I think a lot of it has to do with people being frustrated about the process of how he got hired. And then you put in what occurred with the Bizzardo thing, and a lot of people disagreeing with that. And they're kind of like, well, see, like, this is what we're talking about, like that type of thing. And yes, I will put on the record here too, before people get upset that we're like defending Dan Wilson too much. I would have put, if I would have thought about it, I at the time during the stream, I wasn't even thinking about Munoz at all. And to be fair, part of that is because of how they've used Munoz all year. He's only ever came in in the 8th or 9th inning, right? So to me, he was a non-factor. Now that I think about it, yes, it should have been Andres Munoz 100%, because there is that mentality of, hey, if their best beat your best, I mean, so be it. Here's the thing, though, is what frustrated me more about the Bizzardo thing is the fact that it was just, he threw the worst possible pitch he could have in that situation. He threw a 96, 97 mile an hour sinker literally in the wheelhouse. Could not have been more in the wheelhouse, a little bit in center and, in his moves. So it's like center cut into Springer, right? And that's what guys who are as good as George Springer do to baseballs that are thrown there more often than not, right? And what was frustrating, and please don't look back at how I was reacting to the rest of that Bizzardo inning. I wasn't very nice, but I was frustrated because The last 2 outs he gets in that inning, he's doing vintage Edward Bizardo, the backdoor two seamer sinker on the outside edge to the righties. He's painting, and I'm like, you couldn't have done that to George Springer? Are we kidding? You're doing what you've been doing all year to everyone else but the guy you needed to get out. All right, so that was frustrating, but yeah, I'll just put on the record. Like, I think Munoz should have came in. I also can't say like I hated the Bizardo move either. I was feeling fairly confident with him coming in, but it was also there. I mean, regardless, like any reliever that came in, I would have been like, okay, here we go. Like, let's see what they can do, because that was a tough situation to be in. There is one other part, a managerial decision I want to talk about that a lot of people are bringing up, and I didn't really notice it in live time either. Was in the second inning, Shane Bieber is on the ropes. He has runners on first and second, no outs, and they choose to sack bunt with J.P. Crawford to move them over, with Leo Rivas and Victor Robles up to bat. Leo Rivas strikes out bad too, like 3 pitches, I think. And then Victor Robles hits a weak little grounder to Shane Bieber to end the inning. A lot of people are like, why would you bunt at that time? And, I didn't catch it in a lifetime because, I'm not saying I'm the smartest person here ever when it comes to baseball. But I do realize how big of a deal that is right there, because that's at least a decent fly ball scores you a run. Now, does JP Crawford potentially ground into a double play? Sure. Once again, we're playing the what if game here on what could happen. And ultimately, that's all managerial decisions are, is what if you did this, that, and the other thing. Did you notice that as a thing that you weren't happy about? Did you, because I didn't notice it, or how did you feel about that?
Yeah, I noticed it. I'm usually pretty much team never bunt. I'm very rarely in favor of a bunt. There are some situations, right? If you've got a pitcher up, which just doesn't happen anymore. Maybe if you've got Rivas up there and it's like, or someone that's been, Dylan Moore with when he was slumping, fine. You move the runners over and extra innings for the winning run. I think there's some situations where it makes sense. I'm never big on bunting, especially early in the game. Bieber wasn't pitching really well. I just don't like giving up outs. JP usually works pretty good at bats. Even when he's struggling, like he finds himself deep in the count, able to work a walk. And Rivas, like you said, just swings that weren't even competitive. He wasn't even close to touching some of those pitches. Again, and I feel like, it's straddling the fence here. And it's always meant to just be fair to the manager in these spots. Like, Rivas could have had a better at-bat in that situation. Victor Robles did not have a good at-bat. Like, no matter what we think of the situation before, it doesn't mean that Rivas couldn't have been better. Even if he grounds out, I think the Jays were playing the infield back. I don't remember that specifically, but then you get up 2-0 in that spot, and who knows? And maybe a little pressure off, and Robles gets a single, and it's 3-0 real quick. So, and JP isn't, as much as I just said he puts up good at-bats, like, not like he's mashing the ball this postseason either. It's not like he's your hottest hitter. He's grounded into some double plays, and I think he just rolled over another pitch to second while we were talking about this. So, like, there's all those things you have to take into account in those situations. Of course, JP doubles his next at-bat down the line, so I noticed that too. But, you don't know if that's going to happen in that spot. So
Yeah.
again, against the bunt, like there's things with managers all the time that I'm against. I just think at the end of the day, though, I don't know how much impact it really has. Even going back not to bring up the Munoz Bizardo thing again, Munoz maybe gives up the home run too. I mean, he gave up one to Baez last year in a big spot in Detroit. Like, nobody's perfect. There's nothing you can do that's going to guarantee you a win. JP could have grounded into a double play, and we go, you know what? Maybe JP should have bunted in that spot. Rivas makes decent contact. Maybe he gets one in the air. So there's things I disagree with that go on throughout a game. But at the end of the day, like, the Mariners didn't execute enough in key spots to produce and to get runs in. They left guys on base. They didn't make good pitches in crucial situations. And that's ultimately, to me, what would cost them the game. That doesn't mean managers should be off the hook for poor decisions. But I think at the end of it, it doesn't matter as much as maybe we think it does, like in the grand scheme of things of a game.
Yeah, I think the fact that I didn't even really notice it to begin with kind of tells you all you need to know, at least as far as where I'm at. I think maybe if like Rivas and JP were maybe swapped in the order, then I would get it better, just because JP
Yeah.
can work those better at bats, and Rivas probably could lay out down a better bunt potentially too. But yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, and people will hate me for this. I'm a bit kind of Switzerland on bunting. I'm kind of neutral on it. I think there can be a time and a place, but there are people who are very anti-productive out, which is a fine decision to have. I'm just not that person. I do think there are productive outs. I'm very notably on my Twitter a huge sack fly believer right there. So that's where
We
I'm
could have
at on
used a
that.
few more this year. Hey, if we had
Yeah,
a couple sack
yeah.
flies on Sunday, might have won the game.
Exactly. Yeah. So right now we're going to put a little bow on the ALCS. Ends up going 7 games, and of course the Mariners end up losing that. However, Mariners take game 1 and game 2. Toronto takes game 3 and game 4. Then Mariners win game 5 in pretty insane fashion. Blue Jays punch right back in game 6 in Toronto, and of course we know how game 7 ended. How do you feel about the boys' overall series when you're thinking about kind of like how you would summarize the Mariners' performance in the ALCS based off of, maybe your expectations going into the series versus how it ended up occurring? Kind of where are you at as far as how you feel like they performed?
Baseball always finds a way to sometimes work itself out. I do think the better baseball team won the series. At the end of it, I do think Toronto in those 7 games, if that's all I ever watched of baseball, I would have said I think the Blue Jays look like a better team. Mariners a good baseball team, but Toronto just looked a little bit more complete. Their bottom of the order contributes where the Mariners' bottom of the order doesn't. I think the Mariners' rotation didn't perform up to expectations. Toronto's did. They got pretty solid starts all across outside of yesterday. Funny enough, I thought yesterday was actually one of the few games where the Mariners might have looked like the better team for a decent portion of it,
Mm,
and then end up losing it. Baseball. Going into the series, it's funny. I kind of thought, and I've said this on my channel, I didn't think much of the Jays going into it. Then I did some research on them for a preview of the series, and I kind of thought I was going to find a team that was a little bit fraudulent. I'm not going to lie. I've talked to Jays fans about it. That's what I thought I was going to see. And I dug into them and I'm like, this team is not frauds at all. They are good. Because I was surprised they won the Yankees series. I thought the Yankees were going to win that and kind of show that they were the best team in the AL East. And I dug into the Jays and their combination of not striking out, but being 13th in walk rate still. Not a great power team. I think they were 22nd in home runs, but not Royals level power. No offense to any Royals fans. And even a bullpen that's been maligned, but has good strikeout stuff abilities. They just got a little bit of some walk issues and home runs, and a rotation that, while doesn't have a Tarek Skubal to it that we faced in the DS, still has just pretty quality across the board with, and then kind of a secret weapon in Savage, who only made 5 or 6 starts this year before pitching in the ALCS. Just a very well-rounded baseball team. So I'm not surprised the Mariners didn't win. Now, of course, as a fan, like people ask me, what's your prediction? I said Mariners in 7. Like I got to stick with my boys going into this. Like I'm not going to get to the ALCS and go, we're going to lose. I thought the
mm.
Mariners could win it. And they almost did, right? They were 8 outs away from doing just that. But I do think the Jays were the better baseball team overall. And I think outside of game 1 and 2, I think the next 5, they looked like the better baseball team overall, but definitely disappointed that we're up 2-0 and lost it. That hurts a little bit, especially getting the first 2 in Toronto. And then, Julio hits that home run in the first inning on game 3. I'm like, we're going to sweep. We're unstoppable. We're going to sweep the Blue Jays in 4 games here. And then after that, it just kind of crashed down. I'm glad they won game 5. I know it's not going to mean a whole lot, but they finished their last game at home with one of the most memorable wins in team history, which to me is cool. I know some people don't care about that. I do. I've been watching this team for too long to not care about those things because I used to dream of those type of games, through the bad years. So that was incredible to see. And then, they were there. That they did give themselves a fighter's chance. And as much as yesterday stunk, I'm glad they didn't get blown out. It sounds sick, but getting blown out would just been, man, they went to Toronto lifeless. They didn't. They put up a good fight in game 7 and they were there. We tasted it. But just couldn't quite, or we smelled it. Maybe we didn't get to taste it. I don't know, however you want to use the analogy. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, I do think the Jays looked like the better baseball team. So, congrats to them and a well-deserved World Series trip for a really good baseball team in Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that before the series, like my official prediction was that the Blue Jays would win this series. And not everyone likes it when more or less, I guess, bet against your team is kind of what that feels like. But for me, it was just kind of my logical conclusion, right? I watched what they did to the Yankees in the division series, and at the start of the playoffs, I said the one team I am most scared of facing is the New York Yankees, just because of the firepower that they have in their lineup and some of their starting pitchers as well. I was terrified, frankly. That's the one team I didn't want to face. And then the Blue Jays, aside from literally the one game, just annihilated them. And you could say like, hey, it's the playoffs, like teams get hot. It doesn't necessarily mean like that's, who the team is. But my thing is like the Jays were the number 1 seed for a reason. Like they won the AL East for a reason, right? If they were not a good team and just playing above their, actual talent level, they wouldn't be number 1 seeds going into the playoffs. They wouldn't have smoked the New York Yankees, right? And you also have to pair it with, at the time when I'm making that prediction at the start of the series, we had just got done having an absolute dogfight with the Tigers in Game 5 that ended up with a 15-inning extravaganza, right? So, and everyone and their moms was saying the Blue Jays are going to annihilate Game 1 because of that thing, right? We flew in, we got there the evening before the game and probably dog tired, and the Mariners win the first 2 games. And I think that's what's like almost a little bit more, the most frustrating part is my prediction was right, but in the sense of, man, like halfway through that series, I'm like, damn, they actually could do it. Like, that's kind of crazy. That's like, because here's the thing, like a prediction is not what I want to happen. Like, of course I want the Mariners to be playing in the World Series come Friday. But, I just looked at this Jays team and I'm like, this lineup is deep. Their pitching is stellar. You have Kevin Gausman, you have Trey Savage, who has been a rookie sensation. And you have, I didn't think a whole lot about necessarily Shane Bieber or Max Scherzer, but for me with Shane Bieber though, I'm like, people were quoting how he's been this year. And I'm like, this feels like, Shane Bieber has always had our number. So it's like, I don't think it's going to be that easy. Now, granted, they hit off of him fairly well for the most part, so whatever. And I knew the only weakness for the Jays, realistically, was their bullpen. And maybe like their bench, I don't know. But, we didn't really see much of their bench at all.
No.
But it was really their bullpen. I was like, okay, as long as you can get to their bullpen, you have a really good chance of winning those games. And we kind of saw that though the first 2 games, and we saw that in Game 5 as well. They were getting that damage off the bullpen. But yeah, I'm kind of with you, and I already know what the thought is of saying like, oh, we think the better team won. I thought the Blue Jays were going to win. They did win, but here's the thing: is the fact that this Mariners team took it to Game 7 and were literally they were single digit outs away from finally getting to the promised land, right? It was stunning in a very good way. I was very happy to be potentially very wrong on my prediction. And it was heartbreaking at the end of the day, because it's not like, you give up the George Springer home run and then the last out happens. I'm like, well, I was right. I'm like, that sucks, man. Like but here's the thing, like, what a series. incredible series. I mean, obviously, I wish some of the games like game 2 or game 3 and 4 were a bit closer. Especially games 3 and 4 were not exactly super competitive. But overall, I mean, just an incredible series, and kind of like you said earlier with the Geno Grand Slam, and some people kind of won't really care because the fact they ended up losing anyways. Here's the thing. Here's the way I see it. Okay, for me, when you think of baseball and you think about teams and you think about the high times of any team, you go back to the moments. And this team had moments. Boy, did they. Some of the coolest moments they've ever had. And Geno's Grand Slam will be one of them. I'm sorry, but if you just don't care about that anymore, that was maybe the most electric home run I've ever seen live. Full stop. And I've seen Travis Ishikawa's walk-off homer for the Giants in 2012 against the Cardinals. I've seen, I mean, obviously Cal's drought ender. And that's the thing, right? Is people will say like, oh, Geno's Grand Slam doesn't matter. We got knocked off in the DS in the year of Cal's drought ender, but everyone watches it 1,000 times. And there's a reason for that. Because it's the moments that you remember. You don't remember the foul ball in game 3 in the second inning. You remember the Grand Slam. It was a seismic event in the fucking stadium. Sorry to curse here, but it's my channel anyways. Who cares? And like Jorge Polanco's walk-off. What a moment. I mean, one that we've all been waiting for. So what a series. I'm not afraid to be another person to say congratulations to Toronto Blue Jays. I think a lot of people hate the Blue Jays in the sense of, maybe George Springer, but also the, fans and whatnot. Here's the thing, and I want to touch very quickly on the whole fan thing. Every fan base, including the Mariners, have idiot fans and dumb fans and fans who like to talk crap all the time and are rude and disrespectful. All right. But here's the thing. Is it's a minority of every fan base, all right? And I especially from the George Springer thing, and I don't want to get into it because it's really not the point here of the whole pod, okay? That was very frustrating in the sense of the generalization was crazy. The generalizing was crazy, right? That like, oh, how classless Seattle is. Come on, guys. Like, one, I mean, whatever about the situation in general, but two, it's just every fan base has idiot fans, man. And anyone whose opinion is worth a crap was saying, you probably shouldn't boo that. I don't want him to get hurt. I don't want anyone to get hurt at the end of the day, so that's where I'm at. And yes, so congratulations to the Blue Jays. Phenomenal ball club. I've said it in my comments multiple times on the stream, on the live stream VOD. Incredible series. A lot of Blue Jays fans have found that, and thankfully all but like one comment has been super respectful about it as far as the series and saying what a great series. And that's exactly what I mean, right? For every one stupid comment that you get from an idiot fan of a fan base, you'll get 10 respectful, meaningful comments from that same fan base. So, that's where I'm at with the ALCS. And at this point, I'm ready to, I can't put it into the mine graveyard yet because it was, what a horrible moment that was. It's going to be a while. But now I want to turn our attention to this whole season, which I think a lot of people, don't necessarily want to talk about right now, but I do, because, I released a little video earlier today on both my Twitter and my YouTube, just talking about, very briefly about the season and what it's meant to me, especially this year. Went to opening day, knocked that off the bucket list, had my on-field interviews with some minor leaguers. That was a huge deal for me, getting media credentials and all that. But also, as I said, it was the moments that I will forever remember, both in the individual level and the macro level, right? We got to watch top 3 to 5 best catching seasons of all time. We got to watch that live in person. I personally got to see him tie and break the catching season home run record in person. And when I tell you, that will always be one of my favorite baseball memories of all time, right? It's stuff like that where I can't go back and look at this season and be one of those people who's like, well, they didn't make the World Series, so it's a failure. I'm sorry, man. This season fucking rocked for most of it. And they didn't get to the goal that, we all wanted them to, but there was so much good, awesome franchise defining moments that occurred. So I want to talk about that a little bit and reminisce. So talking about the season, they ended the regular season 90-72. They go 6-6 in the postseason, and they end with a total record of 98-78. So we watched 176 games of baseball. I watched all but like maybe 2 or 3. So yeah, like a little over 170 games of baseball have been consumed by at least me, and I know a lot of us, including you. We watch just about every game we can. So talking about 2025, Jay, tell us, how are you feeling now that the season is over? When you look back on the season, what stands out to you the most?
Yeah, really echoing your sentiments on it. Like, I certainly understand people being frustrated in the moment and going, "Hey, this is not how we want to attend, not how I wanted to attend either." And it's going to be cliche, but there's only one team that ends the season truly on cloud nine with no what ifs at all. And it's either going to be the Blue Jays or the Dodgers. Every other fan base is going to look back and go, "Man, we could have done this, we could have done that." And it should not take away that this was the best season in franchise history. And I know, oh, well, that's because the franchise is a failure and everything. Fine. Like, there's some of that is a part of that, but this was the best season the Seattle Mariners have ever had. They've never been this close to a World Series before. And for me, like, there's so much of it. I'm just so sad that I can't turn on baseball when I get home from work anymore. It was just there all season for me. To be able to come home like, oh, Mariners game today, and they're good, so it's fun to turn this on. Even when they're bad, I still like baseball as opposed to not watching baseball. But I'm gonna miss that so much. It's just on a random Tuesday night. Got the Mariners game tonight. My whole family was into this season. I mean, me and my wife, I wish she would have recorded it. We tried to do game 5 for the LDS. We were like embracing, jumping up and down, hugging when Polanco got the hit. I mean, she is full on Mariners fan now. And then just the moments in the season, winning the AL West. I mean, to have that division title, and that shouldn't be forgotten. The first time since 2001, there's people that are drinking age that never saw the Mariners win a World Series. It's not like 10 years ago or 8 years ago, 24 seasons ago. I was a freshman in high school. My kids are going to be freshmen in high school. My oldest 2 kids. I mean, that's a long time, and we did it. We won the division. That sweep in Houston, that was a playoff series. I mean, I was texting buddies like, we got to use Munoz in the 6th if we need it because this is the playoffs here in Houston. And we went in there and swept it. It felt like a little bit of a changing of the guard series for the first time in this. It was a statement series win for this team. That was incredible. And like you talked about, the individual performances. Cal Raleigh, 60. I know fans won't like this. I'm going to say it's 65 home runs we saw from this guy this season. We saw him leave the ballpark 65 times. Catch. The dude caught every game in the postseason. I mean, and I know a lot of catchers do that, but I mean, to watch the season Cal Raleigh had, to hear when you were at the games, breaking Mickey Mantle's record for home runs by a switch hitter, tying Babe Ruth. I mean, these are names like you don't hear outside of like baseball history. Not a lot of people in baseball are tying things that Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth did in a season. You just don't hear those names much anymore. And just the energy. Naylor's double against Colorado. Just how great that was. Josh Naylor in general, adding him, the season Brian Wu had in the rotation was just incredible to watch. Julio, breaking out. I guess not breaking out. Julio's had some amazing seasons, but really turning it on there in the second half. The Polanco bounce back, the energy we felt when we added Gino at the deadline to be like, oh my gosh, that they're doing this. They got Naylor. And I remember during that day, I think we were talking about guys like Willie Castro and Duhar and some other ones, and they all got traded. I think there was one more. They all got traded. And we're like, oh, I don't think the Mariners are going to do anything. And then out of nowhere, like the tweet, the Mariners have acquired Eugenio Suarez from the Arizona Diamondbacks. Just to see them go all in with that, at the deadline was incredible. And to fans out there, don't listen. The season did not end on the best note, obviously, but it was an incredible season, and you should have fond memories. I hope once the dust settles of Game 7, a lot of you go back and watch highlights of the season. Someone will have on YouTube, best of Mariners 2025 at some point. Go watch that. Go relive it, because it was just an incredible season for this team. I mean, to win the ALDS, to win the West. I mean, how many beer and champagne parties did we get? The playoffs, the West. I don't think they did one for the bye, and the ALDS. I mean, they got 3 times we got to see this team pop champagne. I mean, I haven't that we've got to see it before this season once in 24 years, and we got to see it 3 times this season. Maybe twice. Maybe they did after the wild card series.
Probably.
Yeah, in Toronto. So, but I mean, all that together, it was truly. I'm gonna miss it, regardless of World Series or not. I am. It's going to be really tough not to have a Mariners game to turn on. And I, for one, really enjoyed this season. I think it was a great season. I do not think it's a failure. Ending in disappointment does not make a season a failure. A failure is the Colorado Rockies, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Those are failure seasons. Seattle Mariners won the American League West. They made it to the ALCS. They didn't quite achieve their goal. And I know Cal called it a failure. It's different for players. I don't disagree. I'm never going to disagree with the dumper. Like that guy's the man. I'm not going to question anything he says ever. But he's also coming from a very emotional standpoint, like in the heat of it. For me as a fan, I'm with you. And I think you got to be there for so many moments. And even for me, like just being a part of this community, I know it's cheesy, but hanging out with all you guys all season and everything, getting to chat, has made the season so much fun for me. I've always felt very alone as a Mariners fan because I don't live in Washington, and I didn't feel that this year. I finally felt a part of it, and it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's. I can't make the video I did earlier on the channel and the Twitter, saying that this was one of the coolest years of my life without meaning it, right? And there's a reason I mean that, right? Obviously, there's all the personal stuff with content and all that was super cool. There's a lot of things that could have went better, but also, super proud of some of the, I guess, more of the jumping out of my comfort zone with like the on-field stuff. Can't tell you how anxiety-inducing it was, rivaling postseason baseball. How anxiety-inducing that was that first time. But yeah, but for me, it's more of I started this channel. I started being a Mariners fan after 2022, start of 2023. Actually, it was I don't remember exactly when I started the channel per se, but started doing Mariner stuff around like May of 2023, right? And in 2023, 2024, we both know how those years end. You don't win the division. You don't even make the playoffs. You lose out by 1 game, right? And this year, how stark of a difference this year was and felt to the last 2 years. And like I get it. Some people have been, lifetime fans, and I'm only talking ultimately about 3 seasons, right? But it was just the way it felt so much different, because especially by the end of September, what are we talking about? We're not talking about, oh God, I hope they make the well, we're talking about a little bit if they make the postseason, but towards especially towards that Houston series, we start like, oh, like they are not only going to make the playoffs, they might actually win this division. And we got to see so much history this year, historic milestones this year. Cal hitting 60 home runs in the regular season. That 60th home run will also be on a replay loop for a long time. It's not really a whole lot right now, but go back and watch it, how electric that home run was. Seeing all the accolades he got. He won the home run derby. Do we even remember that? And how awesome that is? I know it's not like a team success thing. It doesn't matter to the Mariners necessarily, but how cool was that? That was awesome, So we saw that. I got to see, a couple of his historic homers live, which was, still I'll stay one of the loudest I've ever heard a crowd in T-Mobile Park ever. It was awesome. But for me, it also, like, and I think back to, this isn't a history thing, sorry, this just popped in my head. Thinking back to opening day, And watching that game, first game ever for the non-Oakland Athletics, which was interesting. But for me, it was Jorge Polanco's go-ahead two-run homer in what, like the eighth, dead center, by the way, and getting to share that moment where, because at that point I was on the concourse with the Mojo guys and the Marine Layer guys, and all of us, when he hits that homer, jumping up and down, hugging. I'm hugging random people I don't even know. High fives. We're all just yelling and screaming. And I don't know. Maybe I should have known that, like, maybe the season was gonna be special, because that was such a special moment for me. Like, I'll always remember that type of stuff. But we get to see all this history with Cal, and in to a lesser extent, Julio has one of his best seasons he's had. Jorge Polanco, like a Phoenix, has an incredible underrated year. For most of the year, Randy Arozarena was electric. I say most of the year. Brian Wu, I mean, what a year for him. I can't believe he could not have gotten hurt at a worse time. But I can't, like, that's gonna be one of the things forever for this playoff run. Is like, what if he didn't get hurt? How much different that would be. We probably would be in the World Series right now. But still, like, you have to think about the whole season, right? And how amazing it was to see him. You knew the potential was there. He just couldn't stay healthy enough for a whole year to really harness it and turn it into a special season. And he finally did that this year. He gets the All-Star nod. I know we all felt awesome for him, right? The video of him calling his parents and crying, telling them the news of that, like, so special. And then you get to it was the season of doing stuff for the first time in 24 years, right? You win the division for the first time in 24 years. You win a home playoff game and score a run in the home playoff game for the first time in 24 years. And you win a series at home, right? For the first time in 24 years. And it was just so much history. Now, you couldn't break the ultimate history thing with getting to the World Series, and that will always be a huge what if. They could have done it. They were so close, 8 outs away. And I think where I'm coming from when I talk about the 2025 season and trying to be grateful for what we got to witness, because ultimately, like, it is no joke, this was probably the best Mariners season of all time. I think if we were having this pod a month or two later than we are right now, I think people would be pretty easy to agree with what we're saying. And, I 100% understand it is still so raw for people to accept how good of a season it was with the disappointment that ends it. But I think the way I think about it is try to put yourself back to how you felt when you see that ball from Jorge Polanco go through the first second base gap. Think about how you felt when Gino puts the barrel on 97 outside and you see the camera angle it pans to. It's not a pop-up. Oh my God, it might leave. Oh wow, it is leaving. Oh wow, it left. Right? Think about all of the big dumper stuff. And the fact that we get to even debate whether he's in the MVP debate running or not, like, he is going to finish second. But the fact there are people who say he should be, right? Like, what a special season. Julio Rodriguez hopefully will get his first Gold Glove of his career. And I know that's ultimately not what people care about right now, and I'm sure that's not exactly what the players care about either right now either. But I think for me, it's just baseball, like I said earlier, has always came down to the moments for me. It's the moments that I remember forever. I remember in my stint of being a Giants fan and watching during the early 2010s, I remember the Travis Ichikawa home run. I remember Marco Scutaro with his arms out and it's raining in that game 6 of the NLCS or whatever it was, right? I remember the Buster Posey homer against the Cincinnati Reds to silence the crowd in that wild card series, I think it was. I remember Madison Bumgarner coming in to close a World Series game. Close the series.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember Pablo Sandoval hitting 3 home runs in a World Series game. all of these are all moments, right? And that's what I think makes me feel grateful for the year is, man, were we spoiled with moments this year. Moments to cheer, moments to go crazy. I cried in my occupation's parking lot on a break when Gino hit that grand slam. I cried in my work's
Yeah,
parking lot, right?
yeah, no,
And and
absolutely.
and how is insane is that to say about a baseball game? But it's true because here's the thing, man, and for anyone listening, 176 games were played by the Mariners this year, and you and I, and I'm only speaking for you and I, we watch just about every game. We may miss a couple a year. It happens. All right. It is a marathon to get through a whole series, a whole season. It is the longest regular season in any major sport, just by the amount of games you have to watch and the bandwidth it takes to not only watch those games, but analyze, care about their results, and try to see what's coming next, right? And for me, when we got rewarded with the moments we got to see this year. Did they make it to the ultimate goal? No, they didn't finish the job. It sucks. It is disappointing. But when I look back on 2025 in 10 years, right? I'm not going to think about, man, another team who just couldn't get the job done, right? I'm going to
Yeah,
think about how I felt watching that game 5 in the ALDS. I'm going to think about this is the club who overcame Tarek Skubal not once, twice, not 3 times, but 4 times twice in the playoffs. I'm going to think about this club being the one that fielded one of the best catching seasons of all time that we got to witness in lifetime. I'm going to think about Julio Rodriguez having a phenomenal year. Brian Wu showing that he can be an ace, right? A lot of things went wrong, okay? And there was a lot of down moments, right? But for all the down moments, just made the good moments that occurred this season all that sweeter and amazing. So that's where I'm at right now. Once again, I 100% understand if people feel it's too early to feel and like kind of recognize those things for what they are. I get it. You know, I wouldn't have said this last night. I'll tell you that much. All right. Um, and there may be some people who just straight up don't agree, and that's okay too.
yep,
If you think it's World Series or bust, that's your prerogative. That's not how I take in baseball. I take it in for the moments, the emotions that it can make me feel good or bad. I hope it's usually good, more good than bad. But some of the happiest and some of the coolest moments of my life have been due to baseball. And a lot of them happened this year. And I can't be more grateful for that. The last thing I'll say, because I do want to give you time to talk about it more, and I feel like I'm ranting here. I apologize.
you're good. No, you were fine.
um, I said it in the video earlier. I think the disappointment I have for what occurred last night, I was less disappointed for myself, and I was more disappointed for the people who I feel like I can somewhat call friends now in this content space. Granted, I have not met a lot of them in person, so friends might be a stretch, but that I'll say friends for now, just because we do have those group chats, we have all that stuff kind of behind the scenes just to talk about the team, and it can be good. Sometimes it can be frustrating, but I will also always remember the group chats after game 5 and after they won the division, and just the joy that I was seeing from people who have put in their whole life into this team, put so much more, 10,000 times more energy and emotions into this team than I have and ever will be able to. And I can't say how happy I was for y'all. I was happy for guys like you. I was happy for, Nathan Bishop. I was happy for Ty and Colby. I was happy for Jage. I was happy for Ben. I was happy for in everyone that I knew, who I know has watched this team and stuck with them for decades, getting to see and be rewarded in some way, shape, or form for that loyalty. And it's something I will never forget. And I feel like very privileged to be a part of that, be a part of those celebrations, be a part of those GCs where, people are kind of pouring their hearts out after those wins and those successes. And that's kind of where I'm at the end of the season. It's just like that. I think that's just another thing where you can't tell me this was some big failure and waste of a season. Like, I got to see people that I look up to, people that I talk to, who I felt like earned and deserved to watch this team and watch the team that they root for play good baseball and have those huge moments. So yeah, I'm going to end my rant there. I want you to be able to say whatever you have on your mind at this time. So yeah, go ahead.
Oh, perfectly said, man. I love bringing up the group chats, and it may not mean much to some people watching because they're not in those chats with us, but or so hopefully, some of them are, but that was me too. Like, that's kind of, I was talking about being a part of it just after those wins, and just being like, because even though like I love the debates, I kind of hate the off season sometimes because I just hate the, oh no, don't sign this. Oh, that, no, not that. Oh no, not that trade. Like, and I want baseball, and I want us all, like, I know if we were all sitting in a house or at a bar, we all would have been just hugging each other, celebrating after that Polanco single, probably some tears being shed during that, and just all coming together and being like, we did it. And I think we did it. Like, none of us were on the field, unless someone's, an undercover player in that
Yeah.
group chat. Like,
Julio
it just,
Rodriguez, if you're watching, hey, I mean, love to have you on.
and appreciate you coming in the group chat right after, man.
Yeah.
Very respect to that.
Yeah.
But just that camaraderie, and that was what, and you've put it so well. Like, don't tell me that season doesn't mean anything, because those are real emotions, and you all felt that. If you didn't get excited and cry, don't cry. Like, there was a couple tears from me as well, but I don't judge people on that if they didn't. But if you weren't emotional after Polanco had that single in 15 innings, I don't know what to tell you. Again, fan the way you all want to fan. I have no problem with it. Like you said, if it's World Series or bust, I honestly respect that. Like, and this team does need to take the next step forward. That's another video for another time. So I do respect it, but everything was real this year. Those moments of happiness didn't go away because of yesterday. Us celebrating in that group chat, like, telling each other how much we appreciate, like, that didn't go away because of yesterday. Like I talked about with me and my wife, like, embracing there when Polanco had that single, like, to win, that doesn't go away. That happened. That was real. It's, I mean, I remember when they won game 2 against Detroit, and I felt like we won a playoff home game. And I know some fans are going to go, wow, that's pathetic that your guys are happy at that. I don't care. Like, I'm not at the point of some other fans. I don't have, listen, I watched a football team for 5 years be one of the best teams in the NFL. I have some Cardinals fans that are friends of mine, and they were super happy when their team made the post. I didn't dismiss that because I know that joy. I know, and there's something real about it. Sometimes I wish you could go back to it a little bit, because sometimes when you're on the top for a while, you don't realize how good you have it until you fall back down. And that's another reason why, to your point of like not dismissing this, maybe, and we don't know what's going to happen next year. Let's say the team does take that next step forward. Hopefully they do, and they're on top for a while. I think they can be. Don't forget this season. Like, don't forget a season like this when we were not a team that knew the postseason very well. We didn't have these experiences, and to have them in that, like, next year, winning one home playoff game isn't going to feel as special. We're not going to embrace that as much, which is good because you want to get past that and be a team that's a perennial contender. But there is something very pure about just being excited. I even used to like scoring a run at home in the playoffs.
No.
I was like, hey, we did it. All right. Like, and maybe that's weak or whatever, but to me, it's not. To me, it's what makes this sport so special. And this is super random, but I remember, I think it was like 8 or 9 years ago, the Buffalo Bills clinched a playoff spot and they hadn't been in forever, and their fans were just going nuts. They got in on some crazy playing another game, and people are kind of making fun, like, wow, they just got in. I'm like, man, that's real. That is so cool that fan base came together and had that emotion just to see their team in it, just to be a part of something that other fan bases may be taking for granted. And I'm rambling here a little bit too. I don't even know where I'm going with it, to be honest, but that's what this season really was for me. And like you said, baseball is such a grind. There's days off, but it's not like football where you play again next Sunday. It's 162 plus 176, I think you said, is what we ended up playing. I mean, I'm with you. I think I watched at least some of every game. There were some where I was at work and maybe missed a little bit, but I'd have the radio on or someone's YouTube play-by-play. So, and go back and watch the highlights later. So I watched every single Mariners game. I'm not saying anybody's wrong for not doing that. We're the sick ones for probably doing that, to be perfectly honest. But it's, and that's what I'm going to like miss, that opening day, like the Polanco and the Randy home run, and then Polo's home run, and just that start of the season, being so excited for opening day. I will say, I think this season's going to make me stress less about a random loss in May, because and I do preach on my channel how long the season is and there's going to be ups and downs, but I think it's always been so hard for us because we haven't experienced the ups. So it's like, well, that loss could be the end of it. I think now, hopefully this gives everybody a chance to breathe a little bit, that if you're 16-16, it's not the end of the world through 32 games. That's sometimes baseball, and then you get hot at a random moment. You even said there was downs, right? There were some cold streaks where, I mean, up until that Atlanta series, I remember doing a live stream, like, I don't know if they're going to get in the playoffs. I still think they are, but man, they're going to have to sweat this out. And then, 2 weeks later, they went 18-1 or something, and they're clinching the American League West. I mean, the Victor Robles catch in Houston and Goldsmith, Aaron's call of that home run. Yeah. I don't even want to try to repeat it because I'm going to sound ridiculous doing it. And then the Buhner going, double them off, like a fan in the stands. One of my favorite calls was the Leo Rivas walk-off home run. What have you done, Leo Rivas? All those extra inning games where I'm up late texting people going, we're done, we're back. That was a Detroit game. I think I cooked us 10 times and then had us back in it 10 times. And that's what makes it so great. And I talked about it on my channel yesterday. For anybody, I think you made a great point. I think in a month from now, more people will probably come back to this with a fond memory. It is tough right now, but these help me. Like, my live stream yesterday and this conversation makes me feel so much better about the season. And I talked about on my channel last night that, not to do a rally cry, maybe some people don't want to hear it, but the lows that you felt yesterday are because of the highs we felt. You can't get to that high of elation and jubilation from a season without some of the lows. Like, that's the risk, right? That's why it shouldn't be taken for granted that they won the American League West, that they won the ALDS. The team they beat in the ALDS, go back to, I'm not lecturing to you, but anybody watching this, go back to mid-July, August. Tigers are the best team in baseball. They're like 58-32. That was the team that's going to the World Series. And we knocked them out in the ALDS. The Mariners weren't that team at the time. And unfortunately, with the highest of highs, you are susceptible to low lows. I've watched a lot of Mariners baseball of nothing, just empty voids of baseball. It was on the TV because I love baseball, but that's the only reason it's on there. There's no emotional attachment to a 58-79 Mariners team outside of, hey, I like watching my team win a game. That's it. This is what we want. And I will take losing the next 20 game sevens in the ALCS over watching 90 lost baseball teams, over watching 95 lost baseball teams. Go to Colorado. They would be, oh my gosh, what an experience that must have been for you guys. They would tell us. Pittsburgh fans would be like, man, I want that. I want what you guys had this year. D-backs people tell me, man, I know they were there not too long ago, but that would have been great to be a part of something like that. My in-laws are Phillies fans, and they've been to the Pinnacle as well, but they're like, hey, would have loved for the Phils to get to the CS and been that close. And again, that's not lecturing anybody. If you should be upset, you should be disappointed they lost yesterday. Absolutely should. They were so close, and you never know when you're going to get back. So I completely understand people like not being, oh, sunshine rainbows about the season. But there is something to it that, I will take this over the bad seasons. Like, I will absolutely take, I would rather lose, like I said, the next 20 games, 7 ALCSs. Now, as I said last night, I hope they don't put me to that test. I would assume we'd win one eventually if we got to 20
Yeah.
in a row. The
Yeah.
19th one we finally win. But I'd still rather have that. I'll take my chances with that any day of the week. And even the home run yesterday that Springer hit, it hurts so much because you know how great it would have felt had you won the game. And that's why it hurts so much. And it's playoff baseball. There's nothing like playoff baseball. I've learned that this season. And the Giants teams, I was very attached to those teams too. I went to high school in the Bay Area. And like I said, I texted a lot of my buddies that are Giants fans. And I'm like, guys, I have no idea how you did it for all those years. In fact, I watched a lot of those Giants highlights this month, because just it would kind of remind me of the Mariners a little bit, that team, a little bit differently built, but kind of the same like fan bases a little bit. And it kind of helped because they got down at times too in series. They were down 3-1 with Barry Zito going in a game who was awful. And, playoffs make heroes sometimes. And we had a few. I mean, even another one we didn't mention, little redemption for Bryce Miller this season in the playoffs. Rough season, but you know what? He's got something to hang his head high. Now, injury's not his fault this season for sure, but he gets to go in the offseason probably feeling a lot better than he would have if the Mariners didn't make the playoffs. So I think once the dust settles, this will be a very, very memorable season. Not where we wanted it to end, but still just absolutely memorable and an amazing community to enjoy it with as well.
Yeah, I mean, I told you when we were planning on doing this podcast, we planned this before last night's game. I was like, okay, well, either we're going to be doing a post-mortem on the season or we're going to be celebrating. Unfortunately, it's the first, which is too bad. But yeah, I guess just to tie that segment in a little bow is, no matter how many people can tell me, you should feel disappointed, you should feel bad, this was a failure of a season, nothing you say is going to take away what I know I felt during this postseason run and during that towards the end of September. You're never going to be able to take that away from me. I know what I felt, and I choose to keep that in my memories instead of wasting it due to a perceived failure. So that's where I'm at with it. So yeah, we're gonna end this out here. We're over an hour and 10 minutes into it. So I kind of figured, hey, we're gonna be riffing here, and it's been a long season. There's a lot to talk about. So Jay, go ahead and kind of tell the people where you're at. Also, if you want to say like what people can expect from you in the off season, and yeah, just go ahead and plug yourself.
Absolutely. Jay's Trident podcast on YouTube. I also at Jay's Trident podcast on Twitter X. I don't think I've made a post on Twitter X in a few months. It's just something I've kind of stayed away from. There's too much. It's hard to tell what people mean on Twitter sometimes, so I kind of stay off of it outside of just looking things up and talking in the group chats. And as far as the off season, I'm probably going to take about a week off. I think I'll have one more kind of post-mortem video of my own on the channel, probably Wednesday, probably a week or two off. We talked about in the group chat, right? One of the crazy things about going this deep on a run in the season is we're not that far away from spring training, truthfully.
Yeah.
The winter meetings are in a month. So
we got to see almost a whole more month of baseball than we normally would have.
Exactly. I mean, truthfully, spring training is like late February, March 1st. I mean, we're 3.5 months away from baseball being back. We're right back to it. Pitchers with catchers report next week. But no, I'll definitely have some off-season stuff up. Definitely want to get, some of the content creators on my channel as well. So just be on the lookout for all that on my channel. There'll be stuff. It won't be as consistent as the regular season because I do take a little bit of a breather from it. But, I'm not going anywhere. So there will be stuff on the channel, I promise.
Yep. Well, I appreciate you being on. It means a lot, especially for this type of podcast. It's a difficult one, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, I want to say kind of a last thank you to anyone who not only has watched, subscribed, followed myself and my content this year, which I truly appreciate. Also, thank you to anyone who has watched and followed and viewed and subscribed to all of the Mariners content creators. It's a really good bunch. Everyone has their own thing, and everyone is really good at their own thing. And we all really appreciate each other in general. So thank you for that. As far as Raise the Trident goes, probably going to take a little bit of a break, especially with the World Series going on. But a lot of that has to do with my plans for what my off-season content's going to look like. You're going to be seeing probably, hopefully, a lot of interviews here. That's probably the big goal for the off-season content stuff, is a lot of interviews. Last year did game shows and stuff, and it can be fun, but it can also be stupid at the same time. So, I can only think of enough Mariners trivia questions to get through that. So be on the lookout for that. I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, there probably is going to be a little bit of a break here after this is up on Wednesday. But I appreciate you subscribing. It means a lot to me. So be on the lookout for interviews. Of course, in December, me and the Mojo guys are most likely going to do another charity stream. Always look forward to that. It's always a great time. We raised, I think, a little over $2,000 last December, which was awesome. So hopefully we can do something like that. But regardless, man, what a season, what a ride. The growth has been insane, not only on my stuff, but I think a lot of people's stuff. I think I just hit over 800 subscribers today, at a little over 2,000 followers on Twitter, and I don't even know what I started the season on, but it was a lot less than both of those, I think. And it just means a lot to have people supporting the work here. And yeah, hopefully next season not only is improved on the Mariner side of things, but also on the Race the Trident things side of things as well. Really hoping that I can elevate some stuff and get some opportunities that maybe I haven't before. We'll see. But that's going to be it in this one. Of course, go subscribe to Jay. Of course, his links will be down below in the description as always. Subscribe to the channel here as well if you're watching this. I appreciate it a lot. But that's going to be it from me and this one, and I will see you in the next. Bye.